Kingston of Georgia. He was a senior advisor to the Trump campaign. It's good to see you, Congressman. Best to your family for the holidays.
Well, same to you, Chris. It's great to be with you.
So with the Electoral College doing the direct vote today, do you think that will end the need for this silly spin coming out of the Trump team about the uncertainty of whether or not Russia was involved with the hacks, and that President Obama is acknowledging the hacks because of pressure from the Clinton camp? This is silly. We had on October 7th, Clapper came out. He coordinates with all the intel agencies. He said Russia is behind the hacks. Forget about why they did it for now. Shouldn't the president-elect acknowledge the threat of Putin and these hacks?
Well, I don't think the pressure is on him to really have to acknowledge it either way. I think if Congress could do its job because the CIA would show up, it would mean a huge make a huge difference. As you know, Devin Nunes in the House Intel Committee tried to have a hearing with Clapper just Thursday, and he would not show up. Which I got to say, Chris, as somebody who served in Congress for 22 years, that is absolutely outrageous. The executive branch is funded by the legislative branch, and they have to have oversight, and they show up. And so if the CIA has such compelling evidence, they need to come forward without any equivocation and say, look, here's what we got. And, by the way, we are on the same page with the FBI, which in my estimation has yet to be determined. Clapper is the one saying the FBI is on the same page as he is, but Comey has not said that yet.
Jack, a couple of things. Because you know better that there's a difference between having somebody come forward with evidence of a crime, as the FBI also does, and having intelligence reveal its sources and methods. You know that there's a significant difference in the danger of exposing those two different types of information. And also, just for point of fact, Nunes may have wanted Clapper to come out and expose methods and sources. Clapper didn't want to do that, but Clapper says he tried to call Nunes 3 times, which makes Nunes look like he was trying to score some political points and pull a stunt and not actually get information from Clapper, because he could have done that on a phone. He didn't need the hearing for it.
Well, Chris, I don't know. I know Devin Nunes. I know Peter King. I believe you do. I know you've interviewed them before. These are really serious guys. To have a classified hearing is nothing to them. There's a room. I've been in it. I've had these classified briefings. It's a well-swept room. There's no bugs in it, and they can talk about anything they want inside that room. And Devin Nunes is a guy, and Peter King as well, who have a track record of keeping confidential information, classified information. They deal with it on a weekly basis. So to me, for Clapper not to step forward is really disturbing. But remember what President Obama said on Friday. He said that there was evidence that hacking took place on DNC and on John Podesta's emails. There was no evidence that it disrupted or affected the election results. And there is this kind of perception that, oh, they broke into the voting machines in Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, or anywhere else, and they swayed the outcome. And that's not true. What they did is they embarrassed the DNC, and we also know about hacking that you make it look like somebody else did it. Well, but it's highly unlikely that only Russia was doing it. There's probably hacking going on all over the place from other countries as well, and lone wolf.
A couple of things. One, the Clapper came out October 7th again. This is what they do. They're very confident that it was Russia. They know how to see when it's Russia. We've talked to people who are involved in the investigation. I don't think we need to muddy those waters absent any new information. Secondly, you're right. It wasn't about what they did to the election machines and the actual polling places, but part of the reason people think that goes back to the Trump campaign, because they were advancing theories about the concern of that and about Soros and his ownership of the machines. That was coming from Trump's team and the surrogates around him who were spreading that BS in the days leading up to the election. So they have to own that, too. This is those chickens are coming home to roost.
Well, you know, but the irony is the Clinton team and MoveOn.org and this guy Clayton or whoever is behind this Americans United group or whatever it's called that hired the Hollywood actors to try to sway the electors and all the intimidation that's going on in the electors. They're the ones now not accepting the results of the election, and they're the ones who are putting democracy in a spin, to use their own words. But also, Chris, remember, October 7th, why wasn't the president acting at a higher level then? Where was the bipartisan Senate outrage? Where were those senators who are now calling for hearings on October 7th? Because what evidence has changed? If the evidence was out there on October 7th, surely they should have been jumping up and down.
Politicians not doing the right thing does not mean the evidence is not there, because it was certainly to the satisfaction of the intel community. Let me ask you about something else, though. You just took an important trip over to Russia. You went as a private citizen. People have to know that. You support the president-elect. You're a senior advisor, but you went there as a private citizen. Understood. You said while you were over there that, hey, we should look at these sanctions because they haven't had their intended effect. What does that mean? I mean, they were just put in 2014, and they were at targeted individuals and entities were seen as bearing responsibility for the obvious illegal incursion by the Russian government into Ukraine. How do we know they haven't been effective? Why would you want to remove them?
Well, two things, Chris, and I'm glad that you have said that, but I will reiterate that I was there as a private citizen. I work for a law firm that has been there for 20 years, and we did post-election reviews in Brussels, London, and in Sydney, Australia, and in Washington, D.C. So this was just part of that. We would have done that if Hillary Clinton was the winner.
Understood.
No longer an advisor to the Trump campaign. That ended with the election. But what my statement was is that the sanctions have been in place long enough to know if the results that we wanted were achieved. And that's a far more tame statement than the one I got credit for. The point being is, has Putin withdrawn from Crimea? Have they straightened out their relationship with the Ukraine? And I think there's a legitimate question there for the U.S. Congress and for the new administration to ask, were those sanctions effective? And if they weren't effective, do you double down on them, or do you withdraw them? Do you get more of an international community pressure to join the sanctions? My point was, if you look at the results, because they've been in place, are you where you wanted to be? And I think that we're hearing, for example, Lindsey Graham said he wants to bear down, double down on the sanctions. And I think, you know, that's a legitimate discussion as well. But what I was trying to do is, you look at Russian-American relationships. They have not been great under Obama. A new administration has the opportunity to come in there and says, you know, how can we address Crimea? How can we address the Ukraine? How can we address Syria, where there's so much human suffering going on? And utilize our existing relationships that have worked. We have American businesses that have been in Russia for 20 and 30 years, and these are Fortune 500 companies that do $50 billion worth of work in Russia a year. Can that not be used as a conduit for communication and some cooperation in a positive sense? I think most Americans will say we need to have a new and a better chapter with Russia.
Jack